We're back. I just said something that's going to make me sound like an anti-Semite in last episode, so make sure you checked in for that, because we're just going to continue on. Now the man who had healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had withdrawn, as there was a crowd in the place. Afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you are well. Sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you." And yeah, his invalidism, his invalidity is probably from some sin that he that he committed, some evil doing in his own mind that he felt like he should be punished like Job. And in fact, this might even be referencing that Job actually does enter a state of invalidity and actually does predict Jesus' coming. So this very much could be Jesus retroactively healing Job, because that's how the nonlinear narrative and nonlinear mythic cycle work. It's how nonlinear Dreamtime works. And this is not a history. This is a mystery. So in mysteries and myth, heroes who never existed in real time anyway can go back in time and fix things. Jesus is going back in time over and over and over and over and over in this book alone to fix things. So if Jesus is engaging forthrightly with Job and healing Job, then we have to read Job. Do I think I have enough familiarity with Job that I can actually find that passage? If I were online, I could do it. I went too far. Ezekiel is before Job. Do you want to see if I can find it? If I can just scan through here, and then if I can't, maybe I just have to be smart and edit that I did this out. Not likely to do that. Should know me better by now. Know me better than that. There's your Neebs reference. That was a Simon moment, one of my favorites. Neebs says to him, "I thought you could do it faster than that." And he looks over at him and goes, "You know me better than that." Or Absro asking him, "What the fuck are you doing?" And he goes, "Look who the fuck you're asking." Yep. My personality is wrapped up in their performances. I found Job. It's not where I thought it is. Here. Job, pleas to God. "I loathe my life." This is chapter 10. "I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress, to despise the work of your hands, and favor the designs of the wicked?" He's still asking God this. This is blasphemy in the Jewish canon. He's committing blasphemy, according to a Judean proper Jew. So Jesus says, stop cursing God, and you won't return to the state that you were in. He very much could have been an alcoholic. Job asks, "Have you eyes of flesh?" Of God. "Do you see as a man sees? Are your days as the days of man, or your years as a man's years, that you seek out my iniquity and search for my sin? Although you know that I am not guilty, and there is none to deliver out of your hand. Your hands fashioned and made me, and now you have destroyed me altogether. Remember that you have made me like clay, and will you return me to the dust? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you hid in your heart. These things, this distrust of my belief in you and my piety. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me, and do not acquit me of my iniquity. If I am guilty, woe to me. If I am in the right, I cannot lift up my head, for I am filled with disgrace. And look on my affliction. I'm an invalid. If I'm guilty in my sin, I am an invalid. And were my head lifted up, you would hunt me like a lion, and against me work wonders. You renew your witnesses against me and increase your vexation toward me. You bring fresh troops against me. Why did you bring me out of the womb? Would that I had died before any eye had seen me, and were as though I had not been carried from the womb to the grave. You understand that depression hit hard back then. When you were, woe is me, better that I had died. It was over for you. If you're not self-motivated to get out of bed, nobody's getting you out of bed. You can find that in Wall Flanders too. Are not my days few? Job continues. Then cease and leave me alone, that I may find a little cheer before I go, and I shall not return. Shall not return. Go means die, and not return means be revived. That means reincarnation. That means that the author of Job is talking about the transmigration of the soul. To the land of darkness and deep shadow, the land of gloom, like thick darkness, like deep shadow without any order, where light is as thick darkness. He's talking about Hades. He's talking about their conception of hell. He's saying, I won't even go back to the source. Just obliterate me. If I'm so guilty that you have hunted and pecked and looked for crimes against you, just obliterate me from existence. And so his friend Zophar speaks to him in chapter 11, the Namathite. And he says, should a multitude of words go unanswered and a man full of talk be judged right? Should your babble silence men, and when you mock, shall no one shame you? For you say, my doctrine is pure, and I am clean in God's eyes. But oh, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for he is manifold in understanding. I want you to know right now, this is a mystery dialogue, not whatever you've been taught it is. Zophar is our main character. Zophar is our good character. Zophar is the character who's speaking Aletheia. You understand? Job is speaking a truth. He's speaking the truth of the depressed. He's speaking the truth of the person who's never been tested in his faith, who's never tested his own faith. And like Satan says, well, test his faith and he'll curse your name. And here he goes. He does. He's not an upright man. He's not righteous. As soon as the people around him start going, hey man, you might not be as upright and righteous as you think, he gets instantly self-righteous. And who's he turn it on? He turns that directly on God. I can relate to that. We've all done it, but I can relate. But Zophar continues, that God would speak and open his lips to you, and that he would tell you the secrets of wisdom, for he is manifold in understanding. Know then that God exacts of you less than your guilt deserves. Can you find out the deep things of God? Can you find out the limit of the Almighty? It is higher than heaven. What can you do? Deeper than Sheol. What can you know? Its measure is longer than the earth and broader than the sea. If he passes through and imprisons and summons the court, who can turn him back? For he knows worthless men. When he sees iniquity, will he not consider it? But a stupid man will get understanding when a donkey's colt is born a man. Stupid people like you, Job. Stupid people who just sit around and bemoan how hard their lives are. People who are too stupid to do the right thing. They'll be righteous and beloved by God when a colt, born of a horse, when a baby horse born of an adult horse grows up to be a human being. It will never evolve into a human being. Never. No amount of billions of years will you get a BoJack Horseman, is what he's saying. And he's saying the same thing I've been telling you. You can't fix stupid. Job is going to prophesy? Jesus. And so we're going to go actually to chapter 13 because I believe it's here. Behold, Job says, my eye has seen all this. My ear has heard and understood it. That he's being belligerent, by the way. He's being belligerent about his relationship with God. He's never had a visionary experience. So far as saying, bro, if you could just have a visionary experience. And what did Jesus say? He said to the Samaritans and to the non-Jewish person who needed his help, if only you had visions, if only you had a vision of the one true God, then you could properly believe and be Christian. You could be like me. There's nothing separating you and me from God and being the same as one another. You just haven't had the vision. So your kid's going to be okay because you've reached out to me, but you don't get the rest of it. And here Job is saying, even lacking my visions, what I have is gnosis. What I have is self-righteous understanding that I have done everything that the Torah tells me I'm supposed to fucking do. He continues, what you know, I also know. I've read the Torah. I go to church, synagogue. I am not inferior to you. In fact, Job is before all that. Job is when this is actually set before Israel and Assyria, before Assyria conquered Israel. Job is all the way in the way back. And so what he's saying is that he knows the secret truths before the Torah fucked everything up, is what our author Job is saying. But I, says Job, but I would speak to the Almighty, and I desire to argue my case with God. As for you, you whitewash with lies. Worthless physicians are you all. Oh, that you would keep silent, and it would be your wisdom. Hear now my argument and listen to the pleadings of my lips. Yeah, if you don't think this is a Platonic dialogue written by Jewish believers who were definitely setting them in opposition to the Judaism of the 2nd century, 3rd century BCE, you're just dumb. And that's what this is telling you. You're too stupid to even be bothering to read it. This is referencing the apology of Socrates right now. If you had kept silent, that would be your wisdom. That's almost a direct quote of Socrates. I would prefer to be silent, and then I would be wise. That's not the quote either. That's a paraphrasing. But that's true of me. That's why I didn't argue with God, and that's why I didn't pray for so long. And then my prayers became desperation, and then they became the petulant cries of a child saying, what the fuck? This is not what you promised me. And now they're not that. So Job even goes on to tell you this is a dialogue. Hear now my argument, and listen to my pleadings of my lips. Will you speak falsely for God and speak deceitfully for him? Will you speak from gnosis yourself? Will you speak from idiosyncratic visions that you're going to claim to have to me? Are you going to claim that you are a prophet there? Zophar, I think was his name. Will you show partiality toward God? Will you plead the case for God? Will it be well with you when he searches you out? And you got to remember, this is when Greek philosophers and sophists were innovating the advocacy for the devil. This is when they were going back and writing apologies for history's villains. Will it be well with you when he searches you out? Or can you deceive him, God, as one deceives a man? He will surely rebuke you if in secret you show partiality. Will not his majesty terrify you and the dread of him fall upon you? Your maxims are proverbs of ashes. Your defenses are defenses of clay. Let me have silence and I will speak, and let come on me what may. Why should I take my flesh in my teeth and put my life in my hand? Though he slay me, I will hope in him. Or behold, he will slay me, I have no hope. Those are very different things. Yet I will argue my ways to his face. I've said that to people. I said that to people as I was heading into homelessness. You want to tell me how to live? Well, that's not how I think any of us should be living. And if God wants me dead for believing what I believe, I'll fucking take it to his face. This will be my salvation, that the godless shall not come before him. Keep listening to my words, and let my declaration be in your ears. Behold, I have prepared my case. I know that I shall be in the right. Who is there who will contend with me? For then I will be silent and die. Only grant me two things, then I will not hide myself from your face. Withdraw your hand from me, and let not dread of you terrify me. Then call, and I will answer. Or let me speak, and you reply to me. How many are my iniquities and sins? Zophar? Make me know my transgression and my sin. Why do you hide your face and count me as your enemy? This is just somebody read the apology and went, damn, I love that. Got to put that into Jewish words. Will you frighten a driven leaf and pursue dry chaff? For you write bitter things against me and make me inherit the iniquities of my youth. Which is interesting because Job was supposed to be an upright person who had no iniquities in youth. So this is interesting that they're even showing that there are statutes of limitations expected on sin in life, not in life's. You put my feet in the stocks and watch all my paths, and you set for the soles of my feet. You set a limit for the soles of my feet, which means, I don't know what that means. I guess that means that the miles that he will travel, right? That's how long his life is going to be. Man waste away like a rotten thing, like a garment that is moth-eaten. I should have just read this whole book to you. It's incredible. It's rapidly become one of my very favorite books. But we're going to skip through to chapter 14 because this is predicting, or at least this is metatextually linked to Jesus. This is what people believed about Jesus when the Gospels were being written and while people were still reading Job closely. This was a very, very popular book. Job 14 continues with Job speaking. Man who is born of a woman is few of days and full of trouble, trials and tribulations. Jesus says something very similar. He comes out like a flower and withers. He flees like a shadow and continues not. And do you open your eyes on such a one and bring me into judgment with you? A son of man. A man born of woman, rather. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean? This is why the Mother Mary and the mystical faiths, the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox specifically, she has to be deified. She can't have been soiled. She has to be virgin, and for them, she has to have died a virgin. Who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing? There is not one, not even God. Since his days are determined and the number of his months is with you, this is why Jesus at the well, the Samaritan woman, he's arguing with effectively, if not an actual prostitute, a cult prostitute. Since his days are determined, Job continues, and the number of his months is with you, and you have appointed his limits, and he cannot pass. Look away from him and leave him alone, that he may enjoy, like a hired hand, his day. Since his days are determined, a son of woman, not a son of man, a son of woman, just leave him alone. This is making a philosophical argument for not bothering people who live low-key lives, even low-key hedonistic lives. Leave them alone. For there is hope for a tree, if it be cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its shoots will not cease. Though its root grow old in the earth and its stump die in the soil, yet at the scent of water it will bud and put out branches like a young plant, the water of life. Even you, dead and rotten to your core as you are, can still sprout a new life, anew as a sapling in God, in faith, in Jesus, in Aletheia. How? Well, you have to go through a controlled ego death. You have to go through a controlled series of ego deaths. You have to shed that old life like a snake sheds its skin. And it's harder and harder and harder if you have tattooed iconography of that life on your body as a permanent reminder. Think of the people who get, a girl's name and then have to cover it up. But a man dies and is laid low. Man breathes his last, and where is he? Depression. Where is a man when he's in the throes of ego death with no one to bring him back? As waters fail from a lake and a river wastes away and dries up, so a man lies down and rises not again. Till the heavens are no more, he will not awake or be roused out of his sleep. Oh, that you would hide me in Sheol, that you would conceal me until your wrath be past, that you would appoint me a set time and remember me. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my service I would wait till my renewal should come. You would call and I would answer you. You would long for the work of your hands, for then you would number my steps. You would not keep watch over my sin. My transgression would be sealed up in a bag, and you would cover over my iniquity. And this is why Jesus is talking about the ritual cleanliness of baptism and belief in Jesus. This is why John the Baptist, is his ghost through the author, is saying that you need ritual cleanliness and baptism, ego death, and you have to believe in Jesus. And that undoes all of what Job is going through. But the mountain falls and crumbles away, and the rock is removed from its place. The water wears away the stones, the torrents wash away the soil of the earth. So you destroy the hope of man. You prevail forever against him. He's still talking to God. And he passes. You change his countenance and send him away. His sons come to honor, and he does not know it. They are brought low, and he perceives it not. He feels only the pain of his own body, and he mourns only for himself. That is the unrighteous man. And then Job's friend Eliphaz climbs up his ass. This wasn't going to be a study of Job, but I want to read for you chapter 16, verse 18, because I relate to this. I felt this. I feel this. I had this conversation with a dozen people. The very conversation Job is having with his friends. O earth, cover not my blood, and let my cry find no resting place. Even now, behold, my witness is in heaven, and he who testifies for me is on high. Jesus. My friends scorn me. My eye pours out tears to God that he would argue the case of a man with God, as a son of man does with his neighbor. Son of man, son of woman, son of man, second order of man. The second order of man is an educated person who is an advocate meaning a lawyer, meaning a member of a guild, meaning an important person in the community, somebody that people listen to, somebody with wisdom and knowledge and responsibility. And what are those people supposed to do? Well, according to the Christian and Jewish canon, those people are supposed to spend their time advocating for the widow and the man in poverty, the sick, and the child with no father. For when a few years have come, I shall go the way from which I shall not return. My spirit is broken, my days are extinct. The graveyard is ready for me. Surely there are mockers about me, and my eye dwells on their provocation. I want to read for you a little bit here of Zophar, because Zophar is a true friend to Job. And Zophar is the kind of true friend that I really wanted and sort of had. Maybe I did have. But he was the true friend that I desired out of several people, and this is what they did not give me. Therefore, Zophar says, my thoughts answer me because of my haste within me. What that means is I'm arguing with myself because I spoke out of emotion earlier. I hear censure that insults me, and out of my understanding a spirit answers me. Because I know what I know, and because I do understand, and because I am mystically initiated, and because I have seen God, I am going to prophesy now. What I said earlier was from my heart, but this is from God's. Do you not know this from of old, since man was placed on earth, that the exulting of the wicked is short, and the joy of the godless but for a moment? Though his height mount up to the heavens, and his head reach to the cloud, he will perish forever like his own dung. Those who have seen him will say, where is he? And this is the king, or the rich man. He will fly away like a dream and not be found. He will be chased away like a vision of the night. The eye that saw him will see him no more, nor will his place any more behold him. His children will seek the favor of the poor, and his hands will give back his wealth. His bones are full of his youthful vigor, but it will lie down with him in the dust. Though evil is sweet in his mouth, though he hides it under his tongue, though he is loath to let it go and holds it in his mouth, yet his food is turned in his stomach. It is the venom of cobras within him. He swallows down riches and vomits them up again. God casts them out of his belly. He will suck the poison of cobras. The tongue of a viper will kill him. He will not look upon the rivers, the streams flowing with honey and curds. He will give back the fruit of his toil and will not swallow it down. From the profit of his trading, he will get no enjoyment. For he has crushed and abandoned the poor. He has seized a house that he did not build. Because he knew no contentment in his belly, he will not let anything in which he delights escape him. There was nothing left after he had eaten. Therefore his prosperity will not endure. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he will be in distress. The hand of everyone in misery will come against him. To fill his belly to the full, God will send his burning anger against him and rain it upon him into his body. He will flee from an iron weapon. A bronze arrow will strike him through. It is drawn forth and comes out of his body. The glittering point comes out of his gallbladder. Terrors come upon him. Utter darkness is laid up for his treasures. A fire not fanned will devour him. What is left in his tent will be consumed. The heavens will reveal his iniquity, and the earth will rise up against him. The possessions of his house will be carried away, dragged off in the day of God's wrath. This is the wicked man's portion from God, the heritage decreed for him by God. And Job answers, keep listening to my words and let this be your comfort. Bear with me and I will speak, and after I have spoken, mock on. As for me, is my complaint against man? Why should I not be impatient? Look at me and be appalled, and lay your hand over your mouth. When I remember, I am dismayed, and shuddering seizes my flesh. Why do the wicked live, reach old age, and grow mighty in power? Their offspring are established in their presence, and their descendants before their eyes. Why does God need them alive? Their houses are safe from fear, and no rod of God is upon them. Their bull breeds without fail, their cow calves and does not miscarry. They send out their little boys like a flock, and their children dance. They sing to the tambourine and the lyre, and rejoice to the sound of the pipe. They spend their days in prosperity, and in peace they go down to Sheol. They say to God, depart from us, we do not desire the knowledge of your ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit do we get if we pray to him? Behold, is not their prosperity in their hands? The counsel of the wicked is far from me. How often is it that the lamp of the wicked is put out, that their calamity comes upon them, that God distributes pains in his anger, that they are like straws before the wind and like chaff that the storm carries away? You say, God stores up the iniquity of their children. Let him pay it out to them, that they may know it. Let their own eyes see their destruction, and let them drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what do they care for their houses after them, when the number of their months is cut off? Will any teach God knowledge, seeing that he judges those who are on high? One dies in his full vigor, being wholly at ease and secure, his pails full of milk, and the marrow of his bones moist. Another dies in bitterness of soul, never having tasted of prosperity. They lie down alike in the dust, and the worms cover them. And so then we skip Eliphaz's retort and we go to Job in chapter 23. And this one's going to run a little long, but we're going to end it soon. Then Job answered and said, "Today also my complaint is bitter. My hand is heavy on account of my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him, that I might even come to his seat, God. I would lay my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. I would know what he would answer me and understand what he would say to me. Would he contend with me in the greatness of his power? No, he would pay attention to me. There an upright man could argue with him, and I would be acquitted forever by my judge. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there." And now let's be very real with ourselves as we're reading this. We have to remember that Job is not a fully upright man. We have to remember that his children sinned regularly and that he made prayers and sacrifice for them. Prayers and sacrifice that God finds loathsome. He wants his children to be good too, not for him to make excuses for them. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there. God is not there. And backward, but I do not perceive him. I go forward in time, and he's not there. I look backward in time and realize that he wasn't there either. On the left hand, when he is working, I do not behold him. He turns to the right hand, but I do not see him. But he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, I shall come out as gold. My foot has held fast to his steps. I have kept my way and have not turned aside. I have not departed from the commandment of his lips. I have treasured the words of his mouth more than my portion of food. But he is unchangeable, and who can turn him back? What he desires, that he does. For he will complete what he appoints for me, and many such things are in his mind. Therefore I am terrified at his presence. When I consider, I am in dread of him. God has made my heart faint. The Almighty has terrified me. Yet I am not silenced because of the darkness, nor because thick darkness covers my face. Why are not times of judgment kept by the Almighty? Is how chapter 24 opens. And why do those who know him never see his days? That's a good question. Job is asking a good question here. Why do we never actually see him? Jesus has answers for this. Some move landmarks. They seize flocks and pasture them. They drive away the donkey of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They thrust the poor off the road. The poor of the earth all hide themselves. Still, there's an intense amount of pressure even among people who thought I was friend, who called me friend, who I thought were friends, who want me to hide myself because I am in poverty. Behold, like wild donkeys in the desert, the poor go out to their toil seeking game. The wasteland yields food for their children. They gather their fodder in the field, and they glean the vineyard of the wicked man. They lie all night naked without clothing and have no covering in the cold. They are wet with the rain of the mountains and cling to the rock for lack of shelter. There are those who snatch the fatherless child from the breast, and they take a pledge against the poor. They go about naked without clothing. Hungry, they carry the sheaves. Among the olive rows of the wicked they make oil. They tread the wine presses, but suffer thirst. From out of the city the dying groan, and the soul of the wounded cries for help. Yet God charges no one with wrong. There are those who rebel against the light, who are not acquainted with its ways, and do not stay in its paths. The murderer rises before it is light, that he may kill the poor and needy. And in the night he is like a thief. The eye of the adulterer also waits for the twilight, saying, "No eye will see me," and he veils his face. In the dark they dig through houses. By day they shut themselves up. They do not know the light. For deep darkness is morning to all of them. For they are friends with the terrors of deep darkness. You say, "Swift are they on the face of the waters." Their portion is cursed in the land. No treader turns away their vineyards, or turns toward their vineyards. Drought and heat snatch away the snow waters. So does Sheol, those who have sinned. The womb forgets them. The worm finds them sweet. They are no longer remembered, so wickedness is broken like a tree. They wrong the barren, childless woman and do no good to the widow. Yeah. The reason we are the way we are today is that. Wronging barren women. Barren women have been broadly sinned against since before this book was written, and even pushed backward into time to when this human being was said to live, from when it was written, about 500 years. The reason that abortion is what it is, and the reason that divorce is what it is, and the reason that women broadly are the way they are, is because barren, childless women are women who couldn't produce sons fast enough, like factories, which is actually a failure of the male, not of the female. If what the male wants is a boy, he should have put a boy in her instead of put a girl in her. The male chooses that, actually, not the female. He should have had more swimmers or a longer dick, from what I'm hearing. But they were routinely mistreated. Yet God prolongs the life of the mighty by his power. They rise up when they despair of life. They rise up when they despair of life. Those with power, I've been talking about self-starters and self-motivation, and I've been talking about depressed. Well, people with money and people with responsibility and people who are evil, when they get depressed, they rise up out of bed and they do evil because it makes them feel good. This still relates to that guy that Jesus healed. All of this is about that guy that Jesus healed. Because Jesus would have read Job, and Jesus would have been speaking to people who knew Job. Knew Job like you know SpongeBob SquarePants. We're going to not finish that chapter. I'm not finding the exact line that I wanted, and I don't want to now pause and read the whole book. But this book is so good. I may have already read it. Will you look upon the man who is coming? But I'm going to read this whole book for you, so I'm not going to continue reading from it, I don't think, anymore in this scene. But I believe it's actually in chapter 8 here, because he's talking about wisdom, and Jesus identifies as God's wisdom. Job in 29 verse 2 says, Oh, that I were as in the months of old, as in the days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and by his light I walked through darkness. Yeah, this is depression. But depression was understood as demonic attacks back then. When people had a demon, it's because they were sad, they were depressed, they were bummed by the state of the world. It must be a demon in them making them say things like God doesn't actually love us. It couldn't be God saying that. It couldn't be God saying that he doesn't love us like a father. It couldn't be God saying these things. That can't be true, because if God is telling us he doesn't love us like a father, but he does love us, what does that even mean? Well, John 3:16 is a response to Job. All of this. Chapter 31, I have made a covenant with my eyes. How then could I gaze at a virgin? What would be my portion from God above, and my heritage from the Almighty on high? Is not calamity for the unrighteous and disaster for the workers of iniquity? Does not he see my ways and number all my steps? What he's saying is all of his friends are telling him, you must have done something wrong for all this to be going on. And he's going, I never did anything this bad. And he goes on all these ifs. Let God curse me if all of these things are true. And then his friends rebuke him. And then I'm pretty sure that Elihu is the last speaker, and then God appears. So I've probably read it. But here's the end of Elihu from chapter 37. We'll start at verse 16. Do you know the balancings of the clouds, the wondrous works of him who is perfect in knowledge? You whose garments are hot when the earth is still because of the south wind? That's a weird argument Can you, like him, spread out the skies hard as a cast metal mirror? Teach us what we shall say to him. We cannot draw up our case because of darkness. Shall it be told to him that I would speak? Did a man ever wish that he would be swallowed up? And now no one looks on the light when it is bright in the skies, when the wind has passed and cleared them. Out of the north comes golden splendor. And that did a man ever wish to be swallowed up? Boys and little girls and women want to be swallowed up by the earth and give up living all the time. But really, did a man ever do that, Job? That's relevant to my short that I did today about men being fat and sassy and carrying their coffee like this to compete with the women because the women own the culture. The Almighty, we cannot find him. He is great in power, justice, and abundant righteousness. He will not violate. Therefore men fear him. He does not regard any who are wise in their own conceit. And all of that book is what Jesus is referencing when he says to this man, I'm going to reread it and then we'll end this. We're going to reread from John chapter 5, verse 14 until the end of this chaptered section, because the header of this next section is probably important enough to do a half hour on by itself. Afterward, Jesus found him, that is the man that he had healed, in the temple and said to him, See, you are well. He went to the temple to give thanks, to worship properly, on the Sabbath no less. Sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you. Sin no more, that nothing worse may happen to you. The man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had healed him. And this is why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, My Father is working until now, and I am working. It's no longer the day of rest, because Sabbaths are abhorrent to God. And he says that repeatedly in their texts that they call canon and law. If they don't say it in Deuteronomy, then Deuteronomy has no authority, no legs on which to stand. And our next episode, maybe after the one after this, maybe the one after the one I'm doing next, you'll see that Jesus talk about that. Thanks for being here. You know how I close these. Until I have people that care, I'm probably not going to do that stuff anymore. Not in the long series. I'm trying to get in and out of these. So thanks for being here. You know what I say. I believe in you. Keep it up.